Does it work? This is that thing where I always say this. At the beginning, sometimes I hit start, it just starts. And other times I hit start, it says it can't automatically start. So I don't know if it has to do with the time that it picks up over when it goes live. I point this way because I have another computer next to me over here where I can see the live stream to make sure it's kind of working okay. I do have the sound turned off on it, so if something gets out of whack, sorry. It looks like we're live. All right, so what I am doing tonight is I'm going to be doing the finishing the files for my Patreon page for the shorts, because I got a couple little tweaks to do. I was trying to do them today, but I was trying to get other stuff finished at the same time. So, all right, we're going to go back to the shorts. I got the file open here. Let me switch to my scene, and then we're just going to go to display capture. We're going to turn off this game capture thing here, and ZBrush time. All right, so I started this a couple minutes ago. Basically, I opened the file, the ZBrush file, and I have the version that I've been sculpting on, which is details really sharp and awesome. And then I basically lowered the resolution, but because the shapes of the files here, it should hold the same amount of detail. It's just spreading out. I have like a 5 million polygon version, and I'm trying to just narrow it down to 100,000 or so, or sorry, less than a million, hopefully, polygons. And it should have the same shapes. There's so many smooth surfaces on here that it shouldn't be a problem. And then on the ones that I printed right here, there were a few little spots you can see here. I did some patches on these because I'm still going to make these. I'm going to finish these out and I'll wear this pair. But there are a few spots that were just a little tiny bit thin. So I want to bulk them up, and the return on the back edge of the inside here, I want to smooth out a little bit more. So basically it's going to be a little thicker in certain areas to reinforce, but then the legs, I really like the thickness of the legs, the actual thickness of the material around the sides, but I want to buffer some of the areas so that when it prints you don't need support material for overhangs and stuff. There you should have, the only support material you will need will be like right in the crotch region there, and you could probably get away without it if you really wanted to. If you just ran your printer slow, if it has good bridging, it should print without it, but I'm just doing it just for the sake of safety. It'd probably save you like 3 hours of print time if you didn't use it. But, so let's see here. So basically what I want to do is I'm going to select, you see, I'll put it on solo here. I'm going to put my glasses on because these are my cheaters, because I'm an old man now. I don't need these, but they definitely do help when it's time to get into the details. So if I go to printable shorts, and then I go to, they both say printable, but technically this is the one that's that is correct. See the inside, how it's smoothed out, and this one has all these undercuts and these cutouts. Before I printed the ones that I'm wearing, I manually smoothed this out, but I want to thicken out the areas here and right under this part right there. It was a little bit thin. Right here on these little edges was a little bit thin, and I think if I just buffer this whole area just a little tiny bit, make it just a little bit thicker, it's going to just like keep its shape a little bit nicer up top. And there's a little bit of, I've added these tiny little wedges right here, which basically once you print it, you can just trim these off with some snips. Really easy. It's easier than cleaning up a bunch of like support material just to keep these buttons. I think I might do somewhere these buttons are a separate piece so you can print them flat and then just plug them in and just heat melt them or heat weld them onto the inside. That might be a future option. Hey! All right, I'm back here. So basically, we're looking at our wireframe colors here. You can see how the resolution is nice, like the detail is clean, and the resolution is relatively low, especially on the inside here. So what we do, I'm going to turn this to a lighter color. It's a little bit easier to see. Matcap white, maybe? Or no, let's go to Matcap white's okay. A little bit lighter color. And then if we turn off the lines, we can see all of the the different layers here. So basically I'm going to take this portion here and select it. And what this does is it just deselects the entire outside of the shorts. So even though you see this looks like the outside, it's the reverse. And if you want to see the other side of the geometry, like you see how it's sort of see-through here, if you want to see the other side of that, you'd go down to the bottom. Where am I looking here? Display properties, and you hit back or double. So it'd go like that, and now you can see the inside. But this is technically, there's no thickness to this geometry still. This is the inside of the outside of the geometry, if that makes sense. So if I flip this, this is, see how it's all weird looking, like you can see through it. This is the inside of the pants, but the outside is hidden. So that means if I edit this, there's less chance of me messing up the outside. But if I want to look at this, if I want to look at the other side of the inside of the geometry, sounds confusing, I hit double. Now it looks like I'm looking at the shorts, but this is technically the inside wall of the geometry. So the outside is still completely hidden. But this is how we're going to do this. And I'm, like I said, I'm doing this manually because it will just help me a little bit here to control the thickness where I want it versus like a global, you know, set thickness for the whole thing. And I actually considered making a second layer of shorts on the inside and just combining all the geometry together so that it controls the thickness. I still might do that, but I'm just going to do this one for tonight. And if, you know, if for some reason it's not working right, I will, oops, I'll do the other version. Oh, see what I just did right there? I went all the way back. This is my timeline at the top, and I just accidentally turned it all the way back. But it's back to normal. So this is your history, this little slider right here, which I'm not going to hit, but if you click back, it'll just, you see how I exchange the number, undo history. You can just kind of jump back, and every once in a while hit it by accident. Did not mean to do that. The worst is when you do that and then you continue to work. It used to not tell you that you were not at your most current history level, and you start working and you realize like something you had done had been like undone, and now you just worked on another part. Now if you go back and then I start to work on it, it'll say, hey, this isn't the, you know, the latest history, do you want to continue, kind of thing. All right, so I'm gonna do, I want to beef up this little section here where it's a little thin. So we can just select that here like this. And that way I'm not accidentally catching the other side too much. All right, so basically I'm going to go like this. What I'll probably do too is as I do these, I will, what I'm doing, this is the H-polish tool, and if you hold down Alt, it actually lifts the geometry up a little bit. So I'm just going to beef it up just a little bit right off of this little lip here. What happens is you go to smooth it, it kind of averages between the high area and the low area, and then you get a spot where on the outside there's a, you know, a little shelf basically, and it'll get too close. So we're trying to avoid that. And you can go to inflate and just inflate it a little bit gently. I'm going to turn on the intensity here. I missed a couple little spots, and so now if I turn this off on the inside, it's like a nice little thin lip here. And you can see on the inside that this is a pretty big step. So if I was going to do from here to here is actually like, I don't know, probably a 1/4 inch of overhang that would typically need a support, a bit of a support material. I also want to sharpen up this little divot here, just a little tiny bit. And what I'm going to do is under the lip here, I'm going to buff that out just a hair, so this just becomes like a little bit of a smooth transition on the inside, so we don't have that little tiny overhang. Now the overhang prints fine, it's not so big that it doesn't print okay, but I'm just going to make it really just nice and even and thick here. So we're looking at where to start. It's kind of one of those things. So I'm going to select the outside, and then I'm going to hit Control A, be Command A on Mac, and basically that just masks the outside geometry. So whatever I do here, and I should select these little buttons too. Let me select the buttons too. All right, so should I make this part of something? I'm going to make the buttons in the inside of the button in the little lip here. Oops. One mesh. Did I get them both? I did. Okay. So flip that. These guys, I'm going to make them just one color for right now. And that way I can hide those things. And there we go. Now I can see what I'm doing. Where did you learn ZBrush? Courses or self-taught? Your audio is cutting in. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Let me see. I don't know how to do the audio. It's just coming through my speaker here. Might be an issue with like my computer might be trying too hard or something. ZBrush, a little bit of both. I worked in it forever, and I never took any like paid courses, but I did a lot of tutorials on YouTube. Let me know if my audio is still, if I'm still losing it or not, but I'll try to alleviate that. So what do we have here? That's the inside. I'll select that too. So I'm going to go VPL. This is planar, which would go, basically if I push this way it'll cut in, but if I go this way and hold Alt, it'll come out. And that will beef up this little section here I'm trying to fix. I'm going to do the same on this side and just kind of like level these pieces out so that we thicken up this little, this little return here. Let me know if the audio is still freaking out. I'm trying to, I don't know if I can fix it, but if I can, I will. All right, we're going this way. Also, if I might be speaking too quietly. Maybe it's got some kind of like noise cancellation. Audio seems fine on my end, just a bit of occasional crackle in the background. Gotcha, okay. Sorry about that. I do have a dedicated microphone upstairs, but I just don't have it down here at the moment. So basically I lifted up the geometry a little back there. Now I'm just going to sort of smooth it. I want the inside to feel nice and smooth, so there's not like little steps and bumps, because like when I put them on, it's like they're very comfortable to wear on my legs. There's no sharp stuff or anything like that, and I think that is nice. I'm actually very excited to get these shorts like moving for my own costume's sake, so I can just kind of like phase out the other ones. I really like the ones that I sculpted before, like I was saying, but they're just not as easy to wear, and I kind of just want something that's as easy to wear as the vacuum form shorts, but look like my sculpted shorts. So that's where these guys kind of come in here. Let's see here. All right. My wife is over there yelling at the cats. That's some weirdness right here. See that? Anyway, so I'm gonna I think I am just gonna thicken this back portion up, like all the way through the inside, so this is kind of smoothed out. It'll make it print better too, just so right now, it printed fine. If you look on the inside, it's totally fine in here, but I just want to make it like as easy and painless as possible. There's a couple other like little thin spots along this back ridge here. So we'll beef them up. Like I said, I'm going to do this, and then I'll export the file again and test them out to make sure that the slicing software doesn't have any kind of freak out about them. Let me see this right here. If I go from here, see this weird little thing? I don't know what that is. That's very weird. If I just come straight down like this, kind of beef it out. I might have to do like a little repair here, which is okay, but. So when I did this, I'm using, to thicken the geometry, I'm using dynamic subdivision, and what that does is it creates a little thickness, and on the edge of the thickness you can tell how many subdivisions between the outer wall and the inner wall, and that's why there's these different colors right here. So it's not good or bad, it's just sort of a thing, and typically if I was thinking about that when I did it, I would have just made 1 or 2 walls there instead of like 8. I don't know how many there are here right now, but I can see multiple colors kind of in this transition. So, love your work on the Star Trek short. Looking forward to more work. Thank you very much. That was definitely a fun shoot. It's very interesting to work with those people at Otoy because they are very smart, and yeah, the whole process was real fun for me. I had a fun time working on that, and it was fun working with Sam Witwer. We both worked on Jedi Temple Challenge, so if you saw Jedi Temple Challenge, our names are on the same credit page, but he was not on set with me on that, so we knew each other, like we met before and stuff, but it was fun to work with him. We got to spend like multiple days on set with him, and he's just like a really, really good dude. So that was exciting for me. I enjoyed that a bunch. I don't know what color I'm looking at here, but it's not easy to see. So I'm gonna turn off the I'm just going Matcap white. A little easier. The geometry is like all bunched up here. So by doing this, what I'm doing there to smooth it down is I'm just holding the shift button, and basically that will smooth the geometry, and by smoothing it just basically takes the polygons and like if they're all kinky, it sort of relaxes them out. Like so. And I'm excited to get these files posted. I was trying to get it done earlier this week, but it's just been a little busy, and I'm trying to get an RX droid built, and I'm trying to keep my printer fed with stuff, and there's the file is I'm redoing a bunch of David Ferreira's animatronic stuff. I'm keeping his basic like layout, but I'm redoing all the pieces because it's just way too many pieces right now for fun unnecessarily. So I'm trying to just simplify that a whole bunch. I caught another live stream. What's up? Hey Richard, how are you doing? I am, as you can see, I'm doing some ZBrush work here. Let's see if I have H polish on. H polish is, why is it not lifting up? It's very weird. Typically if you hit Alt, it will lift. I guess it is a little bit, but not as much as I'd like. It's pushing down way more than it's lifting. So if I hit Alt, that should, see, it looks like it's pulling up there, but it's acting a little strange. Like this should lift more, and there it goes. That was weird. Wonder why I was doing that. So get this leveled out. Again, I'm doing this super manual, so the inside is going to be more sculptural than like perfected. You know, if I did this in like Fusion 360, or even if I did it in ZBrush and I just added the thickness, like the other one I was showing you. Like if I switch to this subtool, let me see right here. It's uglier because it's just thick, but this is this thickness is completely even throughout the entire piece. But on the inside, in here, you would need a bunch of support material to hold that up when you go to print. So basically what I'm working on is just making a gradual curve here, which actually thickens this up, which stiffens the upper part of the shorts a little bit, which I like, so that the top part where it needs to hold the paint is stiffer, but the bottom part where the legs are going into the thighs, it flexes more. So currently that's what I am doing manually. What 3D printer are you going to use? I already printed these shorts. They look like this, and they're awesome. They're really awesome. I printed these on the Creality CRM4 in in PETG, and they are pretty awesome. There's a couple little tweaks that I'm doing now just before I post them for everybody else to on my Patreon. I'm trying to just make sure that any areas that were kind of thin for me are fixed. And it's one of those things too, seeing them in person, I can see little things where I'm like, oh, this could be a little bit better. Loving my A1 Bamboo Labs. Yeah, the Bamboo Labs are really nice. That was kind of one of the ones that's high on my list, and then I saw them do that thing with the firmware update, and I was like, ooh, like that's a little questionable, but the printer itself, the hardware is really good. I'm just curious as to if they're going, with that update. I hope they don't, shift into like some kind of like subscription mode, like all these other, so many places have done that same thing where they basically update, and suddenly they shift into a state where it's, I don't know, like you're forced to pay for some service now. Like you got the hardware, now they got you. So if you want to keep using their hardware, I'm not saying they're going to do that, but I think that update got people a little bit freaked out, understandably so. All right, so keep going here. What I might do, I mentioned this earlier, is I might do a second layer of the shorts. It's a specific thickness and just merge that with this one, just to make sure that if there's the thinnest spots are always at least 1.6 millimeters thick at the minimum. Just finished watching that new Christopher Reeve documentary. I haven't cried that much in a long time. Oh man, I haven't seen that. I saw somebody post some behind the scenes Superman stuff. I wonder if that's what that was from, because like some really cool footage. I mean, what a bummer about that whole thing. And to think like, you go from literally Superman to paraplegic. It's very, very tragic. And he seems like a really nice guy. He's a very, very talented actor. All right, let's see here. Now, there are some tricks to do some like kind of overall smoothing in ZBrush, but a lot of times you don't have control over everything that's happening. This little spot right here, I got to figure out what this is about. This is a little bit strange, kind of a little tweak right there. And that didn't show up in my print, I don't think. I'm looking at it now, and this is the same file. I guess there's a tiny little mark there on my print. It's like a little blip, but we'll get that fixed. We'll get it fixed, and it'll be good. This little funky little line right here wouldn't be so funky. Let's get this a little bit bigger. And we're just gonna go in here and soften this little edge and blend this together. And that way, this interior little piece will be friendlier to wear. Once I printed in PTG, I was able to sand this pretty quick. I did a quick sanding on most of it. It needs a little bit more, but I just blasted it with a hand sander. And the PETG is easier to sand than like PLA. The PLA kind of gets melty. So I'm a big fan of this material. And the one that I used, it was like $12 a roll on Amazon. And if you look on my shorts videos, shorts, no pun intended, but if you look on the shorts videos, I show a test of just showing how much it can flex. And it's pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with the durability. And the thing is, it's so cheap. Like a pair of shorts is maybe like $9 maybe in material. That's it. If that, I think I got probably a quarter roll left. It's probably more like $7.50 or $8 for in material to print these shorts, which is awesome. And I printed them in 26 hours with supports on the crotch. If I did it without supports, it would probably be like probably less than 24. So good print times, which means that you could just have a couple sets on hand, which I honestly just wearing these costumes, I would recommend doing anyway, just because stuff wears out. If something breaks, you just swap another set, turn the existing ones into like a flower pot or something, and then you just always have a pair on backup. It's like kind of the way to go. All right, I am literally just smoothing between the layers here. My cats are sneaking around. It's getting that time of day when the cats start running around the house. They sleep all day and then they come in here in the evenings and terrorize everything. I'm trying to keep the resolution in this area pretty low, which makes it relatively easy to work on. We're living in the future. I know, it's so cool. It is so cool. And pretty soon, probably literally right now, there's some AI software that could probably do all this for me. I could say, just smooth the interior, but only leave a certain amount of gap, and probably just do it. Which would, it's like makes my life easier, but kind of takes some joy out of my existence. Alright. Once I get these close too, I'm probably going to go and unhide the outside and just give a little TLC to the outside. When these things print, they print it really nice. There's like, the subtle stuff. These are from a scan of real C3PO shorts. So, any weirdness that's there is really there. And I'm just trying to like make them clean so that when you print, they're not funky. I might give these just a little... like I said, I gotta fix this little guy here. I gotta figure out that piece. And then under here, I'm gonna bring this up a little bit. I think I had a thin spot in this area. Let me see. There's like, you guys can't see it, but if I put the light here behind, there's right in this area, right here, on this side, what is this? The right back. There's a little thin spot, which would be right about here. So I gotta pump that up a little bit. Not that much, just a little. I don't want to go overboard. I want it to be like as gradual as possible. It's okay if this is a little thicker than the legs, but I want it to still be thin and easy to print and light. I don't want to have like some big thick chunky areas. The doc had lots of behind the scenes stuff I've never seen before, and I had no idea David Prowse trained him for Superman. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. That's pretty crazy. Did they have any videos and stuff of that? I remember somebody said that a long time ago, and I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy. It makes sense. I mean, David Prowse is like super good bodybuilder, so it does make sense that like we need a like celebrity bodybuilder. Let's get Darth Vader. And had he done Darth Vader yet when they were filming? When did your Superman come out? The first one, like 77 or 78, something like that. All right, let's hope I don't want to go too thick here either. See, this is where it gets to that thing where I will. What I can do this to look at the thickness. Let me see if this will work. Actually, I don't know if it will. I have to do an experiment. This is going to be a test. We'll put this one on. We're going to insert a cube, which is giant. We don't want it to be that big. I'm going to go. Oh yeah, take off solo, so you can see this. Scale this down. Okay. Go like that. Now what we'll do is we'll go to live boolean, and this way we can see the profile. See how we can see the thickness there? And then I can like scroll through and look for, see how thin this is right there? It's very, very thin on that edge. Scroll through. So right along here, I gotta thicken this up. And then on the other side, I'm guessing it's probably about the same. Yeah, right there, a little bit thin. All right, let's do a cross from side to side too, and look. And so how I'm doing this is I just made a box, and then over here, this is your Boolean operation. This is like, you know, I can go this way and basically it's, what is it called, intersect, and then this one is cut, and this one is add. So it would basically be both parts together, and then if I merge these, it would become one piece. But I'm using this so I can kind of look at the cross section this way. So another way, we'll go here, and then we're going to pull it this way and check from left to right too. You can see the profile, the thickness of the part, which is very, very handy. It's pretty good. It's like mainly just right along this little ridge here. It's a little bit thin. That's the main part that I see. Looks like the underside of that is okay now. Right here, this is good. Yeah, it's just the top side of that. Most of the front is good. Let me go back to the sides. I'm going to check by the, check by our buttons here on the sides. So last time I had a little bit of issue along this, but this should be thick enough now. It's a little tiny bit thin. Same spot here on this edge. See that little right here? It's a little tiny bit thin. Beef it up. Check this side. The other side is nice and chunky, so that'll be good. All right. I think that's good enough for our test here. Thanks for inviting us to your workshop, Mr. Trevor. Unfortunately, I gotta leave. Have fun. Thanks for stopping by. Ben's project, I find using Boolean modifier to get a cross section to be super helpful to figuring out complex surfaces, since it's difficult to get a sense of the form essentially in 2 minutes. Do 100%. Yeah, it's a thing I use pretty regularly to check, and literally just for that, so I can kind of get a perception of where it really needs to be thickened up. And again, I did another layer. Like I thought about turning on this other layer. You can see how it's just already chunkier. I think when I smoothed it down, I softened it a little bit. So what I can do is I can turn on this other layer, which I know is a decent thickness. Let me see here if I turn it off. And then I'll do a Z project, BZP. Did I do it? BZP. There we go. And I will pull this out to meet the other part, and that should bring our interior thickness to an appropriate level, I think, on the inside at least. And I can actually push it back. Now I don't want to push it. I want to keep the top here. I'm going to go back and manually tweak that a little bit, but that's actually like plenty thick enough right there. So I'm just pulling this out to match up that old geometry. I'll do the same along here. I don't want to go too far and lose my little fix down at the bottom. Just kind of that blend here. I can soften this a tad bit, but also I'm going to pull it up right here. And I think that'll be helpful. Look at the inside of this where I did this. Is that really that far off? Huh. Interesting. Hope I'm not yeah, it should be. It looks fine when I did a cross section, but alright. So that gives me a little bit of a reference. Polish, H polish. I'm just gonna slowly work this thing back out. And it's funny, this geometry looks all low poly and pixelated, but it doesn't even show up like this at all in the print. It looks like the inside of the print looks totally nice. It's funny what you can get away with on the actual printer settings. So Yeah, when I get this close to the top here, what I'm going to do is go in and I will set auto masking so it masks, basically does a backside mask so I don't damage the outer surface. And then I'm going to go in and I will go in and soften up this little funky crease right here so that it is nice. And we'll go from there. Let's see. New Open 77, Superman is 78. They met at Pinewoods. Christopher said, and he says some like crazy stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't think it's okay. I met David Prowse a few times, a long time ago. He was pretty nice. It's kind of like, it's crazy. I remember seeing Clockwork Orange and finding out that was him as the bodyguard, like weightlifter dude. I was like, holy shit, that's freaking Darth Vader. And it's gotta be, it's funny because like I love doing suit stuff, like suit work and being a like creature performer. I really, really like it. But some actors end up being in a role where they're in makeup, and they just, or in a costume or something, and they become very famous for that role, and nobody knows what they really look like, and they hate it. I love it. I think that's like the greatest thing. It's like you can be like, oh, I did all these different characters, and nobody knows who I am. It feels so sneaky. Alright, soften this guy up. And I'm just kind of taking the H polish and I'm just softly basically going, like when you push it, it goes down, and when you hit Alt, it pulls it up. And if you just kind of go back and forth, it will slowly average between the surface. So if you have like a little undercut like this, and just hit the top of it and you just kind of go back and forth, it'll spread out the surface in a way that doesn't really take away or add. It just sort of like averages out the surface around it a little more. So I'll do another cross section check in a moment, but that should, I don't want to go too thick, should make it softened up enough where you don't have a weird overhang that doesn't print right. I way prefer having less print material and less. I hate doing, if I can get away with no supports, that's my favorite. So the less, the better. When I did these shorts the first time, like I said, I had a little bit of support down the crotch area, but no other supports anywhere else. So it prints reasonably quickly. Now, when I printed mine, before you guys got online, I had re-projected this version onto the previous version, which is here, and it sharpened up some of the detail, because when I had lowered the resolution, it softened a bunch of the detail more than I wanted, just a little bit. But it printed, I mean, it looks fine printed, but it's slightly softer than it was in my initial sculpt, so I re-sharpened a little bit since then. Let's do another cross-section check, shall we? I'm going to turn this one off, turn the cube back on, live bling, and it's looking better. What the heck did I do here? What is going on? What did I hit? Oh, you know what? Why is it like that? That is so weird. Did I turn? Let me see. What did I mess up? Wow, it really freaked something out. Look at it. It is having a freaking panic attack. Let me turn this off. Did I just glitch out my... I might have. Oh, wow. I hope I just didn't have a massive... Oh, I see what I did. There we go. Sorry, I pulled the interior surface. That was bad. That took me a second to figure out because it looked very, very strange. Okay, we should be okay now. Turn off the solo mode. There we go. There we go. Alright, so chase it down here. Now, currently our thicknesses around here are looking real sweet. Here. once we get to the back, it's not going to be as easy to tell. But that looks good on the edges. It's a little tiny bit more overhang here, but it's fine. I don't think that's going to be a cause for alarm. All right, now let's cross it this way and see what we see. And cross section out, pretty good, pretty good. Little tiny bit thin still right there. See that? A little bit thin. I can, as long as I'm on this guy, I could give myself, oops. Let me see if I can do this out. Just give myself a point of reference there. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna go back here and we're gonna pull it in. Now I've got a little bump here that I can use for reference. Boom, boom, boom. Just bump it up just a little bit in here. Just a tad. Let's see. We're gonna switch back to this one. All right, and it's close, but it is actually still within. That's within my margin of error. Go on this side and check it. Close, but okay. It's like as long as it's thick as this, I'm okay with that. I just basically want at least 2 layer walls when I print. It looks like right about there. It's probably the spot where it's the thinnest. Let's try to beef it up. Oh, look at this. Da-da-da-da. What layer height did you print your shorts at? I presume it was a 0.8 millimeter nozzle. Yes, it's 0.8 millimeter nozzle, and I printed these at 0.3 millimeter layer height, and they look fine. If I did them again, I think I would print the very top just so I could get this. I mean, honestly, it took me like 4 seconds to clean this up. I took my sander and I went, and it was done. But maybe for like the little greeblies, like I was mentioning earlier, I might take these off and make them a separate piece with like a little peg that you could push through and then heat weld them on the inside so that they become one. I do like that they're one piece. It just feels like the original shorts to me, but maybe I'll do a version where those are separate pieces and then you can print those. That's like the one piece that I wish I could just turn up the resolution on that without hitting a whole layer worth. I don't know. It's probably fine. But yeah, 0.8 millimeter nozzle, 0.3 millimeter layer height for the whole thing. And I did infill. I do, most of it's only 2 layers thick. It's like 1.6 mil, so it just does 2 passes. But then when it gets a little thicker, I set my layer walls to like, I don't know, six layers thick. So there's no like infill. It's just like loops of material. I prefer that. It prints a little bit faster. I don't think it matters too much either way, but that's just how mine's set up. Sal, hi, hello. I met Kitty Baker once. He was smoking a cig outside of a supermarket. I got a photo with him and chatted about Star Wars for like 50 minutes. He was so humble and sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, I met him a couple times too. He was very nice. I think like we saw him at Star Wars Celebration like 2 times. One time was like just before he passed away. He was at one Star Wars Celebration. It looked like he had a fall or something. He had like band-aids on his face and stuff. I was like, oh man, hope you're okay, dude. I don't know what's going on, but he was always very friendly. I remember the very first time I saw him in person was in like 1996 maybe, and it was at this convention in Florida. I think it's what turned into MegaCon, but it used to be like FX or something, an FX convention. Maybe it's still around as that. I think that they changed the name of it. A little beef here, and I have this picture, you know, again back in the 90s when we were still using film, but I got a photo and it's him sitting next to Peter Mayhew. So it's Kenny Baker and Peter Mayhew. They're sitting next to each other doing autographs at this table, and they're both holding a Sharpie, at the same time. And like Kenny Baker's got the Sharpie, and it just looks like this crazy thing. He's got those little short fingers. And then Peter Mayhew's got a Sharpie, and it looks like this big in his hands because he's massive hands. And so it's like such a crazy contrast because they're sitting right next to each other in the picture. It's just so random. Neil, evening. Hello, Neil. Have you ever messed around with variable layer height? Yeah, I use variable layer height a bunch, and that's actually kind of what I was alluding to with the what do you call it? With those little bolts, is that I don't want to turn up a whole set of layers just for the bolts. Most of the part, like next time when I show everything again in a second, I'll show you where I had I didn't even have issue. Let me thicken this up a hair. I see a little bit of thickness right in this area. Here, I'll show you in 1 second. Let me move this out of the way. I'm gonna check. Feel like right there. It's a little spot. See that right there. What the heck was I even talking about? Sorry, I just spaced out. With the variable layer height, one spot where it'd be good is this little section along the back right here. It's almost horizontal to the ground, but not quite. So you get those little plateaus from the layer lines are pretty strong right here. But again, it only took a few minutes to sand them down. You could see them a tiny bit still, but I mean, I literally just went with the sander real quick and then basically deleted them. So I'm not super concerned with it. If I was more concerned, like if I was doing like a 3PO head or even a chest where the detail is just more in your face, I might tweak that a bunch. But I definitely use that setting a lot. I did where are they? I have some more around here. I did these metal right here. Like these guys. I did these medals for this race. They look like this. And basically I did variable layer height with these. So like the most of the metal was done at like the super chunky like 0.3 layer height, and then this top section I just cranked the resolution super high so I could get the detail in the little trees, and it worked really good. It's a feature I really like. I remember when that was a new thing and not a lot of slicers had that. It was awesome. I was like, oh, this is freaking cool. This is real cool. All right. Alright, I think I'm going to go with that thickness. I think I'm pretty good with. I'm just going to kind of like try to clean up my interior wall here a little. So I'm going to turn this off. So now we're looking through the surface, and this is what I did earlier. I'm going to turn the double-sided walls on. So what we're seeing isn't the outside of the shorts. This is still the inside edge of the shorts for anybody that wasn't watching before. And now I can kind of go here and just smooth down any boogers. And like this little section here, I could like generally smooth this down a little bit because it's sort of like indented. And it won't hurt anything, I don't think. And that way, the smoother I get these, then the better off I think everything's going to feel when you wear them. I'm super picky with getting the highest resolution prints, but the video you made about super quick, essentially vase mode prints really opened my eyes. Yeah, to me, that's the thing, is like so much of what I do, I have to make stuff fast. I mean, so much of what I do is like I'm making something for a production. Like I got a thing literally that shoots next. I think I have to be like the parts that I'm shooting with are next Thursday. And I don't even have the scans yet that I'm supposed to be working with. And I have to basically take those scans, I have to do cleanup, and then I have to like invert them and make molds and stuff. Like make shells and then print the shells. And it's like a head, basically, a bust. And the turnaround time is so fast, and like to do all the steps and then print it, that doing that super high resolution is only worth it in a handful of cases. And even then, the thing is, like if I printed that high resolution and something goes wrong, you know, there's not time to reprint it. So I just have to do that. And I got to the point where even if I do a really, really high, like beautiful clean print, I still have to clean it up. And if the amount of cleanup time for a good print versus a kind of crappy print is not that much different, then I'm just going to print it crappy and save myself like 30 hours of printing. And that's just kind of how it is. I don't really care too much. I mean, if I can do resin prints and, you know, save some time, that's great. And a lot of the new resins are getting a lot more like impact resistance and stuff, which is good. But otherwise, it's kind of like, do I really bother with it? Because it's just so much faster to clean it up. And there's so many times now when I go back and forth, like, am I going to do an FDM print of this thing or a resin print? And there's so many times when I'm just like, you know what, I'm doing an FDM print just for the sake of durability. But yeah, some of the new materials for resin printing are getting really good too. See this little guy here. What way is that facing? Kind of like averaging between these two here, trying to take these higher spots and just soften them a tiny bit. That'll, like this one right there, that one's gonna be cool, almost an overhang when I go to print. So I'm gonna soften that down just a tad. And remember, this is the like kind of the opposite edge of the inside of the print. So this is not the outside that I'm screwing up the detail on. This is just the interior. This part printed. All this stuff really printed fine. I don't really need to adjust this at all here, but if I soften it a little bit, it'll just make it a little bit better. Anything else that's looking overhanging like this right there? I'm gonna leave it. So if I open it up, now I got the outside with the inside softened up. See what this looks like if I do a render on this really quick. Let's render it. See what happens. Render. Best. Basically same. Render. Best. Take like Kenny Baker seriously in an actor sense, and I heard another interview where Anthony Daniels was like, and this is not defense, I still think it seems like not the nicest thing to do, but basically saying like, you know, like he didn't have much to talk about, so it's just like they would be there and they were, I don't know, just not having like conversation. So hold on one second, my friend just got a printer. He just wrote me, and so yeah, I don't think it's an excuse to be rude, but it's you know, it's one of those things where you're like, I guess, I mean, I don't know what, you know, you don't know the dynamic, and I've met Anthony Daniels a few times, and he's always been very nice to me, but I could see how he's pretty particular about things, and it's just maybe it could come off as a little bit harsh, and if he's not chatty, he doesn't seem like the type that would just chat for the sake of chatting with someone, and if someone just wants to have small talk, he doesn't seem like the type that would be into that very much. But yeah, that's a bummer. And I just think he didn't take Kenny Baker as seriously. It's like, oh, he's just rocking around in the can, whatever he thought. Now, I'm not saying he said anything like that. I'm just assuming, making assumptions here. All right, let's see. Is he outside, inside, outside? All right, here we go. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I saw the interview where he talked about Anthony Daniels. It was just really like, they didn't really like each other very much. The one who's never nice to me was Peter Mayhew. Like, I've had a bunch of friends that have had really good interactions with him, and I've like tried to talk to him, but he's every time has been not very friendly to me. And the first time I told you I saw that convention in like 90, 96, maybe it was 95, somewhere back then. Peter Mayhew, this was, before the prequels came out and all that stuff, and Star Wars was kind of like at its lull at that point, like mid 90s. It was like not a lot of Star Wars stuff going on, and so at the convention, it wasn't like, I think they had a time when everybody went up to do autographs. There was like a time, but he had his own booth at the convention, and my brother was doing something for his school. Like he did these. Like the school had a radio station or TV station or something. He was interviewing all these people, at the comic book convention. But he was in high school at the time, and I went with him, and I was being his cameraman for this thing. And we went and we interviewed the guy that played Uncle Owen. Was just down the way, like at the other, like halfway down the aisle was like the guy that played Uncle Owen. And he was so nice, super, super, super nice. We talked to him for like 40 minutes. Such a nice guy. And then we walked down the way, and there's Peter Mayhew. We're like, oh, let's interview Peter Mayhew. And we went up, and we're like, hey, can we ask you a few questions? And he was like, oh, it all of a sudden just flipped out on us, like, you can't take video, blah, blah, but like yelled at us. It wasn't like friendly, like, hey, we'd appreciate not doing video or whatever. Just be normal. He like flipped the fuck out, and his wife flipped out on us. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell just happened? Like, again, it was really weird. Like, are you paying us for this? Blah, blah, blah. And it was just sort of like, oh, we're just asking questions for my brother's like school TV channel. Like, what the hell's going on? And then since then, almost every time, I probably interacted with him like 6 different times, and every time was like not pleasant. Just, whatever. But I have a lot of friends that have had, great experiences with him. So, and I'm friends with his wife on Facebook now, and she's been very nice. But yeah, it's definitely interesting how people are. What's the most uncomfortable suit you've worn, dude? Let's see, most uncomfortable one. I did a commercial maybe like almost 10, probably close to 10 years ago now, for Star Wars Box Busters, and I was in a Thorium, like the old school hammerhead, from the cantina. And that one had a particularly uncomfortable head. The way the head was designed was like, it looked really good, and that was always one of my very favorite Cantina characters. So I was very freaking excited to be able to do that, to be that character in the commercial. You only see it for like 2 seconds, but like it was the behind the scenes shots are really cool, and it was great. But the head was like really, really front heavy, and it had this little helmet inside, and it just pushed like freaking crazy on my brow, and I don't think I've had one that was so painful to wear. Like, it actually like was hurting me to wear it, and I was in it for a long time. And my hands, the arms, has these really long arms. My hands were like this inside the arm for hours. And the thing is, like, every time we go to take it off, to take a break, because like the arms were sewed into the shirt. So when you put the whole shirt on, the arms were part of it. And when you put your arms in there, the hands got to be like this, inside the hands. And I couldn't get snacks. I couldn't like go just pick up a water and drink it. My hands were stuck in these stupid arms. And like twice they would go to take it off, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, we need all the aliens back on set, and then we have to rush and put everything back on. So my wrangler was like nervous about taking me out. He's like, oh, I don't want to take it off because they're just going to call you back on set the second you go to take it off. So like the whole day, my hands were like this, and by the time I got my hands out, my hands were super sore, and the head was like just killing me to wear. But it looked super cool, and I was very excited about that part of it. I'm trying to think what else I've been in that's been uncomfortable. So I mean, the droid costumes are not that comfortable. When I did 83 for the Jedi Temple Challenge, it was it's kind of like 3PO to wear. In some ways, it's more comfortable, but a lot of ways, it's kind of the same. But I made the costume around me, versus like 3PO is made for Anthony Daniels, and all my parts are like really made to fit Anthony Daniels. And I'm a little bit taller, so like on my next version of the suit, I'm actually going to extend the shins a little bit, because the rest of the suit actually fits me really well, but the shins are too short. What happens is the whole legs kind of slip down. Anyway, those suits, when I did Jedi Temple Challenge, I was in the suit from like 8 in the morning until like 6 in the evening or something. And I would have like a break at lunchtime, and then between setups, I would take the head and the arms off, but I was just in the whole suit the whole day. And it just gets more just like tiring to wear it, because you're just walking around with the thing on, and it weighs like 40 pounds. And it doesn't seem bad, but by like, you've been in it since like 8 something in the morning, and by lunchtime you're like, oh my god, I feel like I'm gonna die. It's great. I loved the Hammerhead toy. Same. I was one of my favorites. What's funny is my friend Sean Fields did that big Boba Fett action figure life size, and I printed it, the whole thing, and then like a month later did Hammerhead. And I was like, I would have way rather had the Hammerhead print than that Boba Fett print. And I still haven't finished out the Boba Fett. I think it's like right outside the wall here. But the Hammerhead was one of my favorite toys. His hand was real cool, like the way his hand was shaped on the toy, like he could hold the blaster really perfectly. It was great. And he was just cool looking. I got to be one of those Ithorians for Skeleton Crew as well, but only for like a day. And it was like for pickup shots. And the way the Skeleton Crew was done, it had like a big harness. So you put the harness on, and then thing goes on, and it clips to the harness, which keeps it from like moving around. So all the weight's distributed on your chest, which I really liked. And then the head was like fiberglass, and it was shaped, down. It wasn't one of the animatronic ones. It was like a hard material, and it scooped down. So when you're looking through the front, like if I'm looking at the camera, I couldn't see the camera. Like the head kind of dips down in front of your face like this, and then you see out of the mouth, out of the sides over here. So you got to look. I got to turn my head like this to see out. And the scene we were doing was basically like I said, it's like a pickup shot. So I was only in one scene, and they shot the scene twice. And they did they did a practice take, and then I think they filmed the practice take, but they just did one like rehearsal, and they said, okay, now do this thing. And it had this big blue screen, and it had a laser, and it went across the wall with the laser. And like, okay, you just guys all have to watch the laser. But again, I'm looking out the sides here, so my eye line for my character is like out here in front, but I can't see unless I like turn the head sideways. So like try to basically, instead of looking at the laser, I'm looking at the other people around me and try to move my head the same way. And they did like I said, I think 2 takes, and then they pulled a whole bunch of us out, me included, like half of us, and thinned out the crowd, and they did another pass at the same thing. And that was it. And they're like, okay, you guys are wrapped. So I got that whole thing, that costume, that cool day being in that Ithorian was just like the shortest thing. And I love those characters. So I was like, wish it had been longer. And I didn't think it was going to be so short, because I would have asked somebody to get a photo of me. I don't even have a photo of me. I guess there's technically a photo of me in the costume from the fitting, but it'd be like, there's no pictures of me on set with it or anything, unless they like took some that I didn't see the photographer. Like usually you see the behind the scenes people walk around taking photos of stuff, and I don't remember any behind the scenes people for that. But I'm trying to find a scene. It's in one of the last 2 episodes of the show. when they go back to AT-AT and in the ships of like the pirates and stuff are landing, there's some of their shots look like the ones I was in, but there's like 3 or 4 shots that look like that. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know which one this was. I have to look at it real close. Ooh, that's interesting. May sound like a stupid question, but how the hell do you take a leak or in such intricacy? You don't. I just don't go to the bathroom. I literally I eat real careful and drink really carefully beforehand, and I don't think I've ever had an emergency in like 10 years of doing this stuff. I haven't had any time where I've had to like take the suit off real fast and fix it. I make sure I go right before I get in, and I don't drink any water. I don't drink anything really while I'm in the suit, except I'll take like tiny little sip, but I'll never take like a big gulp or, you know, have a people are always like, have a bottle of water. I'm like, nope, because suit does not come off easily. That was the thing with Jedi Temple Challenge one, is that suit, you literally had to take the whole suit off to go to the bathroom, because the undersuit, if I did that suit again, I would design it so that I could take the shorts off separately and then use the restroom, like at least be able to, you know, number one. But the way it was is that because the shorts were sort of different than 3PO, so the shorts didn't go into the legs. There was like a gap between the tops of the legs and the shorts. So it had wires like painted onto the suit, kind of like 3POs. But in order to do that, I got like a wrestler kind of onesie that would pull over my. So I had the leggings on with the you know, the wires painted on the backs of the knees and stuff, and then the shirt, the wires painted on in arm gaps. And then I had like a wrestler onesie that pulled over the whole thing. So it's like a tank toppy thing, but then it had little like shorts legs, and that's where I painted all the wires for the belly and the legs were all painted onto that. And so to use the bathroom, I had to literally take off all my layers just to be able to get that thing off. It was kind of crazy. The Thorians feel aliens. So many aliens, sci-fi feel like people in suits. 100% agree with that. I fully agree with that. That was the thing too. That costume, the one for Skeleton Crew, was so neat. The feet look like elephant feet. They're all big, and they're made out of foam latex, and they're just real weird. And then it had those hands with super long fingers. It was a very cool costume. Very cool costume. I was excited when they called me in for it, because it was like, I thought they were done shooting, because this was like. When I got to do the Ithorian, it was in January of 2023, and they'd shot everything in 2022. So I thought Skeleton Crew was like done, it was all wrapped. And then I got like a request. I think I got it through Central Casting, which is sort of weird, but it was like real specific. Like usually when Central Casting sends out an availability request, it's kind of like, are you available this date? You know, are you okay being clean shaven? You know, just kind of basic. And this one was like asking for me, like the production had requested me, but through Central Casting, which isn't the place that did the casting for that show. A different casting company did the casting for the rest of it. So I was like, oh, this is weird. And they like brought me in and fitted me, and then a couple days later I was on set, and it was like my same friends that did my costume stuff for when I did the Clatoonian were the same people that suited me up for this. And I guess they like asked for me because they knew I would be a good fit for the person. And apparently the person who was in the costume before me, because there was like, I was picking up for somebody, they got ejected from the shoot because they got caught taking pictures on set. And they're really strict about that on the Star Wars. I mean, super strict. And so apparently got caught taking pictures, and they booted him, and I got to fill in for his, for like that day. And when they first told me this, like, it looked like it was gonna be like 3 days of pickups or something, pickup shots, but then it was only 1 day for me. And they were just done. They were like, that's it. But yeah, they're super strict on the photo thing for sure. So that's good. I'm glad that guy messed up. But yeah, somewhere there's a photo of me in the suit. But I think the one that they did for the fitting, it's the same. It's the exact same wardrobe that I wear in the shoot, but I'm wearing a different head, hands, and feet. It's like the same alien, but apparently different paint job. Like they just had one there to make sure that it would fit, and the other ones were still over at the studios because like where the wardrobe stuff was happening was like in Culver City, and then the shoot was at Manhattan Beach Studios. So they had one of the heads and hands and feet over at Culver, and they tested the wardrobe on me and to make sure everything fit. But then the one that I wore on the day was actually a different set of the Thorian parts. Again, from the same molds and everything. They looked the same to me. I wouldn't have known they were different, but they told me when I got there that it was. They actually made a joke. So I was like, oh, I only got to wear this thing twice. And they said, actually, you only got to wear it once. The one you wore the other day was a different set. And I was like, oh. So, cool. So if you saw the ones behind the scenes photos, if they ever release some from the fitting with my name on a little plaque, technically the ones that I'm wearing there are not the same ones I wore on the day of the show. Oh my gosh, look at all of this mess. And it's so weird doing stuff from a scan where it's just all the weirdness is there and just like, is this ugly? When I did the CZ3 for Regal Robot, it was from the scan, and the real sculpture is super, super weird, and when you're working on it, it's just like, okay, everything's kind of wonky as all get out, but looks super cool when it's done. Looks super freaking cool. Alright, there's a little undercut there that I want to see. This little thing, I want this to be like leveled out. I'm trying to not affect the outside at all while I get this inside as close as possible, and then I will go back and soften it back up again with the whole thing. It's funny because like I was looking at, I have multiple pairs of shorts for reference, like reference photos, and this is exactly how this scan looks. And a lot of 3PO ones are cut really thin like this. They don't have like a big return on the lip. But I was looking at a set from Empire Strikes Back. Again, they're exact same mold. It's just like, you know, when they cut them, they trim them out. The one is a little tiny bit thicker around this edge that I was just looking at. It was on another droid at the archives. All right, so I'm gonna just turn off the outside. So select all, invert. So now nothing is masked, so I can potentially screw stuff up. So I'm gonna go to brush, and we're gonna go to auto masking and back face mask. And if this works properly, if this is off, if I was to like sculpt in the inside here, it would damage. I'll turn it off and just do a demo here. So if I turn off back face mask, I'm gonna go to the clay tool. It's a pretty good one. And if I go in here and start doing this, see how it messes up the outside? We don't want any of that crap. So go in here, brush, and we go to back face mask. And if I do this, it should not mess with the other side. See that? So that's why we turn that on. And I think I might need to turn this on per brush. Let me check and see. I can't remember. Yeah, see, whichever brush I'm using, I have to turn it on. It's easy to like mess it up. So I'm gonna pull this out just a little bit and thicken up this little wall here, just a tad. Just level it. I'm gonna cheat that in. Gotta keep checking to make sure I'm not damaging the other surface here. Yeah, I've always felt that with the guy that played the original Xena and Alien, I love it, but it does kind of feel like a guy in a suit compared to Kevin Peter Hall, who played Predator. Dude, that guy was freaking so tall. It's pretty wild. And I've got a couple friends that are like in that, you know, getting close to that height, but most of them are not that like that skinny. That dude was like, he was thin. He kind of like makes the suit really read kind of awesome. The thing was with the alien, the xenomorph too, is I think in the film the way they present, oops, hold on a second, BHP, the way they present the alien, you don't see much of it at a time, so it really sells it, I think, you know? I think when they start to show too much of anything, it always just kind of like loses something. That mystery kind of makes it creepier, you know? Let's see if I can do this without screwing it up. I got like a little bit of a soft layer here. I don't want this to be too wonky. Well, got the weirdness. Let's check this. I got that weird little spot right there. I gotta figure that out. If I can do anything about it without damaging something. You know what? BSL. That's the lasso. So BS, and that's your selection tool, and L is lasso, and that makes it like this. It's a little lasso tool. Go here. Let's see if I can isolate this little thing and figure this weirdness out. I don't like that. E-P-I, pinch. Let's see if I can correct this a little bit. The geometry got a little tweaky. I don't know why it did that. Kind of like relax it and try to like finesse it back into shape. I don't know why it got so weird there. Alright, BST, standard brush, gently finesse that back. Again, when these print out, this is like such a small little thing, and you just hit it with a little quick sand and it's gone. It's gone. But I'm going to try to keep it as good as possible here without making it too funky. You can see the edge right here where it kind of moves along. Yeah, and the shorts I was looking at earlier that I was saying were like a little bit, like they cut them a little bit thicker. You can actually see the return on the mold, like on the casting where the mold was. You can see how it flips around and then like starts to go back up. Like you can kind of see what the mold shape was more than I could on this pair that scanned where they cut it like a little more into the part. I don't know which way I like more, but this is going to be just fine. Relax that. It's like you relax and sharpen, relax and sharpen. Pull this up a little tiny bit. All right, let's like look at this backed up, see if it looks too weird. It's got the normal bumpies. I want to fix this thing. I don't even need to fix it. It's more like I just want it. I feel like the outer line is good. Hang on one second. I'm going to go look at something real quick here. I got to look at my secret images, so I got to make sure I can't just show everybody because some of the stuff I can't show. Can't have it on the internet. Let's see. One second. As soon as I can open this back up, I will. Gordon Tarpley, that's me. Okay. Here we go. Of course. It's funny that the one I'm looking at, the droid that I was going to use for my reference to check, is like, it's on a display stand, and the display stand literally comes up from back, and it hooks over the back of the shorts right at the point I need to look at it. That's okay. I got some other ones here I can look at. I'll look at those ones from the Rancho Obi-Wan. Those are the ones I had in my thumbnail, I think. I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, shorts back. Yeah. This one's not quite the right angle either. It's closer, but it's not quite right. It's good enough. Just good enough. I'm gonna just exaggerate this to where I feel like it should be. Let me go back to me here so you guys can see what the heck I'm up to. Scene, down. All right. So I'm gonna just see this little funkiness on the edge here. I'm gonna try to just average that out. Again, this is in the scan, but I just want it to be slightly better than this. You know the Van Dammers that played Predator kept passing out suit? Yeah, I mean the suit that he had him in was like not at all like the original suit. Steve Johnson's studio did that first one. It was like this red suit. I guess the idea was that they could key it out for like the invisibility effect, because the red would, they could key out the red in its own layer against the green in the background. At the time they were using I think they were mostly using blue screen, but they started incorporating green screen, but blue and green wouldn't work in the forest, so they did this whole red suit. It looked totally nuts. And it's crazy because he's so much smaller than the guy that they finally got. What's his name? You just said his name a second ago, but he's Van Damme is so much smaller of a dude. And yeah, they ended up it's kind of crazy actually. I'm just going let me see. Should I do this? Let me see here. I'm gonna just gently, of course, I'm gonna turn the shift way up. See if this will be friendlier. Oops. I'm just gonna do the back here, so I'm going to hide the front so I don't actually damage something here in the process. Just finesse it down just a little tiny bit, because I feel like on this casting, it's like the real one has like a return like this, and it's the correct amount of material, but on this casting in particular, it's like pushed upward like this, and I don't think it looks as good. So on the other ones I see, it's the same, like I said, it's like the same amount of stuff, it's just angled slightly more down instead of like this. So I'm gonna try to correct that to taste to my own taste here, till I think it looks better without damaging it, hopefully. I'm gonna bring it in just a hair. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. In this one, you can actually see that little lip right there. That's part of that return I was talking about, where when it was trimmed on the other shorts, it's like that all the way around the whole short. Like they just, instead of cutting at the return, like the whole shorts kind of curve over, and then the return goes up. It's like instead of cutting down next to the return and cutting that off, they cut into the return this way, so you can see that little lip, which is just like this. Let me back that up. Maybe I'm not going to mess with that right now. I might just leave that for now. I'm going to just gently, let me see, let me back it up some more. I'm backing up all the way back to the beginning, because it's not wrong. I just prefer it when it's flipped down a little more. I guess it's one of those things too, if you like shave this down a little bit, it could be nicer, but I kind of like it when it's a little lower. That's okay. Yeah, the shop, I'm pretty sure it's Steve Johnson's shop that did that original Predator suit for Van Damme, and he did like those little cooler weird things for the Abyss, and he did like Slimer. Did he do Slimer? He definitely did some stuff for Ghostbusters. I think they did Slimer for Ghostbusters, the original one. And like that taxi, like dead taxi driver guy, I think they worked on that as well. That used to freak me out when I was a kid. That was the one scene, like I knew when I saw that ghost come up out of the hot dog thing, the next shot was going to be that creepy ass cab driver, like rotted guy. And when I was a kid, that used to freak me out. Did not like that. Oh yeah, original design was awful. Thank God they got Stan Winston to redesign it, and James Cameron came up with the manuals. Oh yeah, super freaking cool. Kevin, Chrisley, thanks John thank you very much. They're right here next to me, and that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm going through all the little spots that were just a little thin and fixing them, and I'm tightening up some detail And then I'm going to post this first version tonight. This is going to be, again, this is going to be like a beta version 1 or beta version 2. And then they may get another round of tweaks as I go. And then, but they'll be up there. If some people want to print them and make them, they're definitely 100% usable as of right now. Like I'm gonna use the pair that I printed. I'm real happy with them. But you know, if people have little critiques and they want to change things, whatever, they can let me know, and then I will make adjustments to upcoming versions. I am still doing a foam pair, and I'm going to do a version that is split like what is it? Did I do that right? No. I do here BSR. There we go. I'm gonna do a version that's split, so it'll be like a front and a back, like kind of this thing, and they overlap, and they'll hook at the top where the little bolt is. That's still on my list to do. So if people like the backy form style shorts, they can do those, and it'll be pretty freaking cool. Steve Johnson did sculpt Slimer. Yeah, that's what I thought. I remember when I first got to LA. And I went to Monster Palooza. There was Monster Palooza like just 2-3 weeks after I got out here for the first time, and I remember there's Steve Johnson walking around. I was all excited, like, oh my God, Steve Johnson's just hanging out here. This is crazy. I'm very excited about that. I'm going to sharpen it just a little bit. Brush, make sure our thing is back face mask is still on. Okay. I'm just going to tighten up this little curve. I feel like it's got a little soft right here. When I did the down resin for this thing, it kind of like averaged out a couple of the edges just a little bit more than I want. Monster Palooza, Steve told me a story of how the producers came and asked him to make Slimer look like Belushi as an homage. He said, okay, and told him that he did it with the that totally seems like a thing he would do. That's his personality. I met him and he was very friendly, but just like over the top. And I remember he kind of reminded me like Tony Stark a little bit, like Robert Downey Jr. kind of something about him that was pretty funny. The Scalary brothers from Ghostbusters 2 scared the shit out of me as a kid. Dude, yeah, those things are awesome. You know what's cool is that up at ILM in San Francisco, they got the animatronic heads from the Scalary brothers up there, up on like in the display cabinet. They're very cool. I got good photos of them on my Facebook, I think. Last time I was there, I got a pretty good walk around too, just on video. This little crevice here. Let's see if I can average this back out better here. Nope. That's looking a little bit better. This is the Damien standard brush, which is good for doing like creases and stuff. And again, I turned down the resolution quite a bit, so the geometry will be sharper, but not 5 million polygons. So this whole shorts now, inside and out, are only 700,000 polygons, 682,175 polygons. Thriller video scared me, but I love the video so much, so I started watching. You know what's so crazy is Bob Burns has this crazy prop collection. He actually has, speaking of Steve Johnson, he actually has some of the things from Abyss that Steve Johnson made, but he also has the extending arm from American Werewolf, which was repainted and used in the Thriller video, which is pretty crazy. He's got the screen used Rick Baker like extending arm, and it's freaking cool. I love American Werewolf. Also, I love the Thriller video, and it's pretty neat to see some of the stuff make it through. This little guy right here, I'm going to slightly over sharpen because on my print it came out very, very soft. And I think it's just my printer settings. I was running it real fast and it softened it a bit. So I'm just going to give it a little tiny bit of an edge on the inside here, which probably by the time you clean up and paint is not going to really show up very much. I don't want it to be overly sharp because it's not super sharp on the real deal, but it's a little bit sharper than this. So I'm just going to push that in just a hair. And again, the version I posted to my Patreon tonight might be not the final, but I'll probably just, if you know me, I'll rework everything for a million years. So if I don't get something up there, then it'll be messed up. Just want to make sure this edge doesn't have any like weird returns on it. It does. This is like this weird shape here. This is the real thing. Scanned off the real one. This weirdness. So I'm gonna leave it. But this little top edge, I just took sandpaper and on mine, like you can see, it's like it took like all of maybe a minute and a half with my sander, and it's nice and smooth. So hopefully this thing kind of like makes it even easier what I'm doing right now. Just trying to get rid of these little sharp lines. I don't know how many of you would do these for a statue versus wear them, but I will be wearing mine, so I don't want to have any like little spots that are irritating, you know. So I'm just going to soften this edge just a tad. And also to help get rid of that, on mine it's like a slight tiny little overhang right there. So I'm kind of like softening that little lip up just a bit. Essentially that'll kind of like get it the same. It should be pretty good. Yeah, last time we were at we went to some convention like last year, and the woman that was like the girl from Thriller was there. Can't remember her name. She's like doing autographs and stuff. It's that thing where you make the decision, do I fix it or do I leave it weird? Yeah, doing a CZ3 cleanup for a Regal Robot, so much stuff was just so weird. If that head is like so asymmetrical and messed up, and it's just looks like they sculpted it as a concept piece, and they were like, just mold it. We need to make more stuff. Just mold that one. It didn't look like, you know, like back in the day, it was, you know, especially for just eyeballing it, it was not easy to make it perfect unless you got out like the calipers and were, you know, measuring stuff like you're sculpting a car or something. It was just not the same kind of like sculpting stuff. You're just doing it by eyeball. So it's like, you know, the Stormtroopers and Vader and 3PO, and all of them are asymmetrical a little bit. But Brian Muir is a good sculptor, and he did RE7 and Vader, but the CZ3 droid is so freaking, it looks so quickly done that it just does not look like a finished sculpt. It just looks like they just made it like, quick, we need it. That's what it felt like. Especially when you got the scan and you can kind of like just turn it all these angles that you would never see it in real life. You can like turn off perspective and just look at it from the top and you see it's all. But what's funny is all his helmets, RE7, CZ3, Darth Vader, and what else? There's something else he sculpted, but they're all asymmetrical in the same way. Like the right side of all the heads is slightly longer than the left side, so it's like he favored this side, and then like this side is shorter. It's weird. All right, let's see here. I hate the way this thing looks. This is one of those things where I'm like, I'm gonna take a little liberty with this and just tweak it just a tiny bit so that it's even, because I don't like this thing here. I'm gonna kind of just level it out. It's got a weird thing where like the line from one part just sort of like rolls over into a different line. It kind of doesn't make sense. And it's such a small thing. It's funny because like nobody ever would notice this stuff, but man, I'm sitting here looking at it for so long, and I'm like, what am I seeing and why? See this funky little thing right here? Let's just average that down. Now again, if you saw my videos with my shorts, they were printed off of like a version of these that was not as cleaned up as this. So they came out, again, they look just fine. Totally wearable. I'll be using these with my suit as is. I'll probably print another pair too, just as I go, just to like recheck them. But these will be posted. I'm gonna put these up there tonight. Steve also told me the story of how they wanted him to do Spielberg's War of the Worlds, but he said he had to take a trip to go stay with yogis in the That is also 100% something I could picture him doing. He had that show, he had like a podcast called Rubber Rules or something like that on YouTube, and it was so good, and they did like a couple episodes and then he never did anymore, and I was just like, man, where'd that show go? It's awesome. Spiderhead from The Thing, in fact, every effect from The Thing terrified me. Rob Bottin worked his ass off. I mean, that movie is the one horror movie that really freaked me out when I was young. Like that one, like legitimately scared me. It totally freaked me out. I really liked that movie a lot. Like even now, I think that one's awesome. And Rob Bottin is just freaking amazing. So that's The Thing is great. That I think that's always on my list when someone asks me like what movies scared me. That is the one, because all the other ones, like when I was really young, you know, the goofy shit would scare me, like Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever. It's sort of stupid, but when I was a kid, it was like scary. But The Thing, I think, you know, obviously I know it's effects and stuff, but to this day, it's kind of like the idea of like, you know, being stuck somewhere and you don't know who's like churning into, you know, this alien being or whatever. It's like always creeped me out. All right, I think let's do one more cross section check, and then I'm going to throw it in a slicer and look at it. Do I have a subtool? De Niro. Let's make sure I don't have any real thin spots that are terrible. Did I just move this? Hold on a second. Okay, we're still good. Sometimes I move something and don't realize I did it. Okay. That all seems correct. Let's look at it from the other side. And that's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. All right, so now we'll check the side view. Tiny, man, it's not thinner than this, so that's okay. It looks a little thin in that section right there. See that? Is that too thin? I'm gonna beef it up just a little bit. I don't want to be in here and go, man, I should have done that right there. Okay. All right. So it's not bad. Let's do inflate. I'm gonna go back to brush, backside mask, back face mask. I've been saying it wrong the whole time. Just pump this up a little bit right there. See that? Just gonna chase this little edge, and this is gonna be my reference as I go. Am I in the right? Yeah. You can tell I live close to a road. There's like a lot of noisy cars going by. Okay, all right, back to here. And I'm gonna have to push in a little more in this area. That's pretty good, like right up to about there. Let me see. Right there, it thickens back up. Burp, stop it, get out of here. Whoops, what the hell did I just do? That was not what I meant to do. What am I looking at? Oh my god, did I just freaking ruin it? That was really weird. I don't know what I just did, but it's not what I meant to do. All right, so we're going back. This thin spot right there. Right there. Okay, back to here. Okay, back to my draw tool. It's just this area right there. That is it. Give it a little smoothing underneath, even it out. Pump it up. It's like pump it up and smooth it. Pump it up and smooth it. There we go. Am I messing up anything on the outside there? I did. See that? It's going through the outside. My little mods are pushing through. Gotta go back. See that little section right there? They like cut through. So what I gotta do, turn off live blame. Solo. I'm going to, okay, see that undo history? Solo this. Invert it. You know what? I'm going to do it the other way. Solo this. Invert. Mask all that. There we go. Now, okay, I know where this is going to be. So this is along this section here. Is basically where it was. So I don't need to cross section it again. I think this will be sufficient. Sorry about that. Oh man, speaking of props, I've been drooling over some of those Blade Runner. Yeah, those are freaking cool. And I haven't been out to prop store since they got that stuff. I would love to go see it in person while they got them there. It's it is very freaking neat. Have you ever been up there into prop store yet? Up in Valencia, like sometimes they have their like when they do an auction, before the auction they'll do the kind of like an open, it's not an open house, but they'll have like an opening for the auction, and you can go see all the stuff in person, and that's always kind of fun. But when I've been up there for like prop restoration work, it's really fun, man. I always like just love going and walk around that place and seeing all the stuff they got in. There's like tons of stuff that will be there for a long time before they ever actually do the auction. So this, what I'm doing right now, is exactly how I'm going to make my two-piece shorts. I'm going to basically cut two pairs like this and then just extend them out. It's gonna be really like a simple job. I've not been there, not sure where it is. It's up in Valencia by Magic Mountain. And when they go to do the auctions, like if you know an auction is coming up, if it's in Prop Store or California, Los Angeles, and not obviously, you know, not the one in the UK, but if it's the one in here in LA, which is where the Blade Runner stuff is at right now, it is, I think they will make announcements about when the auction's going to be up, because I think it might be either for the auction or just before the auction. You can go up there and see everything, and it's very awesome. Sorry, I saw something weird. Everything, you know what? I'm going to call these for right now. Let me do a quick I'm going to do a quick save on these guys. Save as shorts. D5 printable. I'm marking them as like the one OBJ, or should I STL? Let's do STL. I never export STLs from ZBrush. I always do OBJs. Okay. Select in Polypaint. Who knows? All right, we're trying it. Files were exported successfully. Okay. London be a long drive. Yeah, the London place has a really, really awesome like in-house collection. Okay, we're gonna open Slicer, Prusa Slicer. Let me switch back over my scene here. And there's that, and Prusa Slicer. There we go. Let's see, now, printers. We're gonna go to CRM4 0.8 millimeter. And then that'll be fine. We'll adjust this as we go. We're just gonna look and see if anything's weird. It looks freaking massive. All right, let's see. Boink. Put them up on the end. And for these, just for the sake of doing this, I'm actually going to do a trim of about a 1/16 of an inch off the bottoms here, like that, just to make sure I got a flat base. It doesn't matter. This whole part for me is stuck down in the leg, so even if I were to use these, it wouldn't matter. Gonna delete object B. And look, it's freezing up. Sorry, you guys. Sorry about the seizure my computer's having. I'm trying to run too much stuff at the same time. Just give it a moment. Give it a moment. Let's see here. Oh my God, these motherfuckers. Caucasian male with blonde hair, 5'6", 5'7" stand-in. Cool, not me. Wait, it's going slow. Prepared by the model algorithm. It's probably going slow because I'm running like ZBrush and my streaming stuff at the same time. I wonder if it's that little funky thing that I fixed before. If there's like a little weird edge in there or something. You know what? I'm gonna cancel it and see. Sometimes it doesn't. If it'll let me cancel, we'll see. Sometimes I can cancel and it will still run. Repair. Oh, repair operated finish. Repair with cancel. Okay, cool. We're just gonna go without it. Cool. There we go. And we're gonna see what happens if we slice it. Sometimes it still works anyway. It is going really slow. I have brim on, infill 100%. It's just like crawling right now. Typically this goes faster. I might have some weird setting on. Searching support response. Warning, detected print stability issues. 90%, generating G code. I didn't look at any of the settings when I did this. I just want to like, it does. So, see, it's pretty thick right through here. This is where that part thickens up. And let's see here. Got it. That's still 2 layers. As long as it's 2 layers thick, I'm happy. I just want to make sure there's not something where it just makes a hole. So like right here we have the 2 perimeters. This is kind of how the legs should print at the bottom of the short. See how there's just 2 perimeters all the way around like that? And then I'm trying to look for trouble spots here. Oh, looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Sweet. All right. This one says 1 day, 10 hours without support material, and there's where the little supports could be useful. I wonder if it'd be better if I just made like a little fin that goes up right to the middle of the crotch there that you just trim off. That would be easier to do than printing the support material. I don't know. It's fine like this for now. Let me see what my print settings are. Perimeters. See, I'm on some crazy perimeter settings. I could run this faster. I think sometimes when it's like the perimeter layers, it wants to run them slower, and I also know that currently my because it's running a big nozzle, it gets stringy with PETG a little bit more, and I set the retraction rate really high, and it starts it a little too early. So what's happening is on my printer, it'll come in to, you know, like where it's about to complete a pass, and then right before, like maybe like an eighth of an inch before, it starts to retract too early, and I get a little bit of like a spot where it doesn't print one little edge, and that's my settings. It's not like the file, but it's something in the way my settings set up here for in here. Anyway, I just got to go over it. And these things are like, it's fickle, and the stuff that worked on my CR10S5 is slightly different than the CRM4, even though it's like a similar size printer and everything. The CRM4 is actually a better printing machine, and the CR10S5 did a great job, still does a great job, still works great, but it's a Bowden tube, so I would have to do the retraction a little earlier, which is why it's set the way it is, because I think I copied my settings over from that. And they might have let's look and see if they've added CRM4 to the Prusa slicer yet, because sometimes they put the settings in the slicer. No, we'll go get that later. See what they have to offer here. I haven't checked in a while. Boy, everything's going slow. I think I got too much stuff open right now. It's freaking out. So, Ender, Feel Touch, Ender, CR, Ender 3, Ender 3, Ender 3. I feel like if I took one of the Ender settings, these direct drive Enders, and then updated the sizes to match the M4, it would probably work just fine. Or like this one here. This is CR6 Max. CR Mini. It's funny, they just don't have the M4 for some reason. It's not even beta. It's funny because they've updated so many of these, but they've never added the M4 to this guy. Interesting. No big deal. No big deal. We'll go back and check that later. That's for another video. But I have a decent replica of the cake, but it needs some weathering. I was able to get the off-the-shelf sweater, but I need to dye it again. I can only get a white one. Oh, that's crazy. Was it like something that somebody made custom, or is it like a found thing that they used? Well, I'm in London, so the drive would be fine, but the hopelessness of not being able to get anything would be awful. That's the thing is, like with Prop Store, is this stuff sells for so much money now, but it's so cool to go there and see the stuff in person. And the Prop Store in London has like a really, really cool collection of like spacesuits and stuff. Like tons of really, really good ones. And if you could go there and just to see their stuff, it'd be worth it. And Stephen Lane, that runs the one in London, he's a really nice guy. And I've done a lot of restoration stuff for Prop Store over the years, and some stuff sold out in London, but most of it sold through LA. But it's definitely worth going if you can go in there. It is very cool. All right. Oh, another thing I wanted to say too is when I printed mine with the supports, the last time I printed, again, this might be thicker in some areas, which is why maybe it's a little bit longer. Mine was a day and 9 hours was the initial time, but I sped it up to like 170% speed, and it worked just fine. Like, and it came out like this. Still looks totally fine. It just looked like it was going really, really slow. Like it was like, and I was like, man, this could definitely go faster. The shapes are really simple. So I feel like even if I turned it down, like ran at 200% speed up to about here, and then turned it down to like 120% speed, I mean, again, I think these came out fine at the speed I did them. So I'm not disappointed with them at all. So for me, I would probably just turn the speed up. Is Brandon Allinger still at Prop Store? Yep, Brandon is still at Prop Store. And that's who I've worked with him on most of the stuff that I've done there. He was like my point of contact. I did the restoration on his TikTok from Return to Oz. I mean, that TikTok was at my house for like a year and a half. It was supposed to be there for like a month and a half or 2 months, but it was right when I got my knee injury and I had my surgeries, and it took me forever to get it done because I just couldn't work for a full day at the time. It was crazy, but it was really cool having TikTok in my living room for all that time. Let's see here. My phone just made a crazy noise. Let me see if I got an email. I don't know. What is this? My friend worked on something from Captain America. That's pretty cool. Anyways, let's see here. So I think I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna post these STLs on Patreon now. I gotta figure out how to set them up. But I talked to my friend Michael Badley, and I asked him how he does his Patreon stuff, and he just told me the different ways I can upload them. So for these, since it's not like a big complex thing, I'm just gonna put them right on the Patreon upload. If the file's not too big, I have to see if it'll handle it. If not, I'll put it on like Google Drive or OneDrive or something, and put a link on the subscriber thing, and it should be good. Let's see. I was following the RPF thread on the coat, and they'd been giving specifications to a company for the coat. The sweater was New York company off the shelf. I know, it's so crazy how some stuff is just like totally off the shelf stuff. Like when I did photo double for Picard, and all a bunch of the sweaters and stuff that they had, and the jackets were like Giorgio Armani, but then they had been modified a little bit to make them look more like Star Trek-y, but there was like, still had the labels. I took pictures of all the labels and the sweaters and stuff. I still have my socks from that shoot by accident. When one day they had us all leave early because COVID broke out, and I changed out of my stuff, and I went home, and I realized I still have my socks on that are like the Picard socks, which is freaking sweet. He gave me a piece of foam from the pit of Carcoon when Boba Fett. Oh, that's freaking cool. That is very cool. They had a bunch years ago. People went out there. It's at the Imperial Dunes in like right at the edge of Arizona and California. And if you knew where the place was, where the actual pit was, you could go find pieces of foam because they just like buried it there or something. But my friend Scott in Florida went out, and he got a whole bunch. And Natalie, my wife and I, we went there. Natalie, when did we go to Imperial Sand Dunes? Is that 2 years ago?
When did we go to where?
Imperial Sand Dunes. Is that 2 years ago?
That was for our anniversary 2 years ago.
Yeah, so 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago we went, and I couldn't find the exact spot where they filmed the sail barge, but it was crazy because the dunes, it looks exactly like it did in Return of the Jedi. You get up there, stand on a dune, you look out, it looks just like you're on Tatooine. You could just picture like Jabba's sail barge, and I'm sure that where they shot those scenes is probably, I'll just look it up when I get there. And then we get there, and it's like I'm not getting any reception on my phone at all to like look up the location. So if we go back, I'll have to just look it up ahead of time. It was another thing that's crazy is I wanted to fly my drone there, and my drone was like blocked, like my DJI drone. I couldn't fly it because it turns out we were like a half mile from the Mexico border. So they had like the FAA restrictions, and my drone wouldn't take off. So that was cool. So I thought it'd be a pretty cool shot of the sand dunes with the drone. But once I get an FPV drone, I'll try it again because they can't stop me. But anyway, all right, I'm going to freaking call this live stream off, and I'm going to get these files posted on my Patreon page. So if you're waiting for them, I guess it's the time to be on the lookout because they'll be there soonish. They should be there before the end of the night. I just got to go read up on how to do it correctly so that I don't screw it up. So it might be a little bit, but they'll be there tonight. And make sure everything's the way I want it. All right, it looks doable. All right. That'll be it. The next thing I do, I'll probably, again, have another version of these shorts plus a foam pattern for these, which will be coming up sort of soon. and I will be starting on some 3PO legs that are like kind of same thing from scans of screen use stuff. So they should be like all the weirdness, just like the shorts. They're not going to be super clean and perfect. They're going to be weird and screen accurate. So I don't know how long that'll take me, but that's kind of next on the list. Again, I'll probably have a couple versions of these up to in the next few weeks as I go, and I'm working on other stuff too. Mentioned RoboCop, Tom Servo from Mystery Science Theater. I have about 80% modeled and good. I scanned his little barrel and I scanned the hands from the pieces, and I'm modeling the other bits. I'm going to try to make the puppeteering stuff in there easier to assemble, so you could actually like take it apart, put it on a shelf to display it, but then you could put it on this little puppeteerable rod, and it's like a detachable thing, which I think will be really cool. Because right now, if you want to have a puppet, it's got this whole thing on the bottom. It's a big pain. Or if you can have a display, but then it's harder to puppeteer. So anyway, I'm going to make that whole thing detachable. Should be neat. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me while I did the ZBrush stuffs. And I will see you kids soon. Tomorrow, drone practice day. So I'll be back for an hour for drone practice. If not, more ZBrush. Thanks, kids. I'll see you later. Bye.